Jake Harrow's week had already been circling the drain before the ad showed up. Freight routes were slow, his cargo hauler smelled faintly of burnt algae from the last delivery, and the only messages in his inbox were bills. That was when the holo popped up while he was halfway into a bottle of rotgut and a rerun of Star Cops 13. The sultry alien voice purred promises of juicy satisfaction and the galaxy's most tender selection. Cuts of meat rotated on the screen, glistening and dripping. Meat of the month, your taste buds will beg for more, the voice promised. He barely hesitated before clicking order now. He'd been living on nutrient bricks for 3 weeks. The price was high for a meat shipment, but his stomach was making the calls. 2 days later, the cargo bay door chimed. The crate was taller than him, plastered with perishable, handle with care stickers. His mouth watered imagining steaks thick enough to make a carnivore cry. He broke the seal, the lid hissed open, and his brain screeched to a halt. Inside lounged 2 very much alive, very much smug alien women. The taller one had teal skin and eyes that shimmered like oil in sunlight. The shorter one had copper freckles that glowed faintly when she smirked. Both were wearing clothing that looked like the designers had been allergic to fabric. About time, the teal one said, stretching in a way that made it clear she knew he was staring. We were getting cramped. Jake's jaw worked uselessly. What the hell? I'm Nira, the teal one continued, brushing imaginary dust from her thigh. This is my sister, Leah. You must be our new mate. He blinked. You're what? I ordered meat. That's what we are, Leah said with a smile so wicked it should have been illegal. In our language, meat means mate. And you subscribe to the monthly plan. His brain tried to reconcile the steak ad with the 2 half-dressed aliens sitting in his cargo bay. I wanted ribeye, not ribcage. Nira tilted her head. You'll find we're tender in all the right places. And firm where it counts. That's not, no. This is a mistake. You're going back. Impossible, Leah said, hopping lightly out of the crate and brushing past him with a deliberate press of hips. Our bonding contract has been initiated. Returning us would be socially taboo, not to mention expensive. He backed away. You're seriously telling me I paid, what, 300 credits for a matchmaking service? 500, Nira corrected. Plus renewal every 30 days until the bond is sealed. Bond? She smiled, slow and dangerous. Physical union, emotional connection, shared living quarters, the usual. Jake dragged a hand down his face. Great. So I've got 2 strangers squatting in my ship because a translator glitched. It's not a glitch, Leah purred. It's destiny. You needed satisfaction. We needed relocation. The universe delivered. I'm sending you back, he said firmly. You could try, Nira replied. But our species has rules. If you refuse a bond, you're labeled a breaker. That carries penalties. Public shame. Fines. Possible reassignment to a less compatible mate. Her gaze slid slowly down his body and back up. Trust me. We're more compatible than most. He opened his mouth to argue, but Leah's laughter cut in, light and knowing. You might as well let us stay. We're easy to feed, we enjoy company, and we like to keep things interesting. Interesting, he repeated flatly. Very, she said, leaning in so close he could smell something warm and spiced on her skin. Besides, you wouldn't want us wandering the station alone. Someone might mistake us for unclaimed stock. Jake groaned. This was a nightmare. A beautiful, infuriating, faintly dangerous nightmare. And judging by the way they were already making themselves at home, Leah flipping through his pantry, Nira eyeing the pilot's chair like she owned it, he had a feeling it was just getting started. And the worst part? A small, treacherous part of him was already wondering what the hell bonding really meant in their culture. Jake woke to the smell of something cooking, which should have been impossible since he'd locked the galley before going to bed. The lock hadn't stopped Leah. She stood at the stove in nothing but a loose belt that barely qualified as clothing, humming while she flipped something sizzling in a pan. Your nutrient paste is disgusting, she said without looking up. I'm making real breakfast. He rubbed his eyes. And you're doing it topless because… She glanced over her shoulder with a grin. At home, we eat without cloth between us and the air. Hygiene. Before he could argue, Nero walked in holding his coffee mug like it had offended her. This is poison, she declared. I've tasted recycled engine coolant with more flavor. Jake snatched the mug back. You broke into my kitchen to insult my coffee? Nero shrugged, all shimmering teal skin and casual superiority. We're mates. That means sharing everything, including my honest opinion that you have no taste. He sat, deciding it was too early to fight. You can't just move in and take over. Leah leaned across the table to slide him a plate, giving him an unmissable view of exactly how little she was wearing. You said you wanted meat. Eat. When he muttered that she could have worn clothes, she tilted her head innocently. You want me to dress for breakfast? How formal. Nira smirked. He wants you to keep the mystery. Leah licked her fork slowly. Mystery's overrated. I like clarity. Breakfast turned into an argument about who was the better mate. Leah bragged about her cooking, Nira claimed she was more intelligent, and Jake tried to remind them he never signed up for any mate. Humans always say that before mating, Leah said like it was a proven fact. It's adorable. Later, they invaded his closet. Nira put on his jacket, rolling the sleeves and commenting on how restrictive human fashion was. Leah pulled on one of his shirts and announced, This chafes in interesting places. He turned red. You can't just, we can. Nira cut in. Your wardrobe needs work anyway. By midday, he discovered the real problem. They'd accessed his terminal and signed him up for something called the Life Bond Renewal Plan. Monthly charge until offspring are produced. He read aloud, horrified. Leah patted his shoulder. Don't worry. We're patient. And creative. You're not staying, he snapped. Returning us is forbidden, Nira said, suddenly serious. It would make you a bond breaker. She explained, with unnerving calm, that bond breakers faced fines, exile, or forced pairing with the most incompatible species available. Leah added cheerfully, Last case we heard, the poor guy got matched with a sentient fungus. Very clingy. He buried his face in his hands. This is insane. Nira's tone softened just enough to unsettle him. Relax, human. We're not here to ruin your life. We're here to improve it, and have a little fun. The look in her eyes told him her definition of fun was going to be dangerous. The grin on Leah's face told him she agreed. The knock at the hatch came too early for anything good, and the moment Jake saw the uniform he knew it was trouble. The figure on his doorstep had the soulless posture of someone who worked in Galactic compliance. Mate Compliance Officer Taver. The alien introduced flatly, holding up a tablet. Random inspection. Need to verify bond progress. Jake tried to explain there was no bond, only a translation disaster, but Taver was already stepping inside, scanning the space like he was searching for illegal cargo. Nira appeared first, smiling like she'd been expecting this. Officer, welcome. Would you like tea? We've made great progress. Jake shot her a warning look, but she ignored it. Leah slinked in next, looping her arm through his and pressing close. He's very attentive. Always keeps us warm at night. Jake choked. That's not… Taver typed something on his tablet. Physical closeness verified. Hold on, Jake protested. We're not. But Taver interrupted. Need proof of cohabitation. Shared quarters, emotional connection and… He scrolled. Intimacy logs. Jake swore under his breath. Leah leaned her head on his shoulder. We can give you details if you need. Nira purred. Vivid ones. Taver's antenna twitched. Good. We'll also require bed-sharing confirmation. Jake started to object, but Leah was already tugging him toward the sleeping area, talking about our nightly routines, in a tone dripping with implication. By the time Taver glanced over the bed, unmade, thanks to them, the sisters were practically staging a romantic tableau. When the officer finally left, satisfied that the bond was on track, Jake turned on them. "What the hell was that? You made it sound like we helped you," Nira cut in. "If he believed we're progressing, he won't assign a bond guide. Trust me, you don't want one." He demanded to know more, so they told him. In their culture, a bond guide was like a courtship referee, living with you, monitoring every interaction, pushing you toward the finish line. Finish line, in their definition, meant exactly what he suspected. Leah grinned. "Some couples fake it, but the guides are thorough." The thought made him shudder. "So now I'm stuck keeping up this charade? Or embracing it?" Nira said softly, stepping closer. "You're already halfway there. You just don't want to admit you like having us around." He opened his mouth to argue, but she was close enough now that the warmth of her skin and the faint scent of spice made words fail. Leah leaned on the other side of him, her voice teasing in his ear. "Besides, pretending is more fun than you think. Especially when the pretending feels real." He realized, with a mix of irritation and something else, that they weren't just playing games for the officer's benefit. They were testing him. And he wasn't sure he was winning. Jake decided the only way to get rid of them was to make himself unbearable. He cooked the most burnt, flavorless meals he could manage, left his socks everywhere, and started pretending to snore like a broken engine. Leah only laughed, claiming his feral domestic habits were charming. Nira told him quirks were considered desirable on their homeworld because they showed a mate was authentic. Instead of pushing them away, he was apparently making himself more attractive. They treated his sabotage like a game. If he left laundry on the floor, they draped it over themselves as outfits. If he slammed doors, they called it passionate expression. Leah even started rating his worst meals, holding up imaginary scorecards while chewing. It was during one of their endless teasing exchanges that things shifted. They were all a little drunk from the bottle Leah had, liberated, from a trader's stash. Jake joked that if this was their idea of bonding, it was no wonder their matchmaking service had to trick people. Nira's smile faltered, and she admitted they joined the program to get away from a situation they couldn't escape otherwise. "We didn't want to be owned," she said quietly. "But we didn't want to stay where we were either." That truth hung between them, softening the edge of the banter. Jake muttered something about them being trouble from day one, but there was no bite in it now. Leah slid closer, her grin returning but gentler. "You like trouble," she said, "as long as it keeps you warm." The night ended with them playing a card game that devolved into a chaotic pile of limbs and laughter. Somewhere in the tangle, Jake realized they just crossed whatever line their culture considered the final bonding step. He didn't know exactly when it happened, just that it had, and none of them seemed in a hurry to undo it. The next morning, his console pinged with a holographic congratulatory message from the subscription service. Confetti rained across the screen while a cheerful voice declared, "Bond complete! Monthly renewals will now include supplemental mates at no extra cost." Jake blinked. "Supplemental what?" The answer came in the form of an automated receipt, * shipment en route. Estimated arrival, 3 days. Contents, triple satisfaction package, *. Nira sipped his terrible coffee without complaint for the first time. Leah stole a bite of his burnt toast, looking amused. Jake stared at them both, then at the receipt. "I hate this galaxy." Neither of them looked the least bit worried.